Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Book Nook, our cozy little corner to talk about all things book related. My name is Abi.
And my name is Sarah, and we are going to be your hosts. So today, we are going to talk about a couple different things. We're going to talk about some of our future episode plans. We're going to talk about reading slumps, and we're also going to talk about some of our book preferences.
Yes. Because you'd be surprised how much you can find out about a person when you learn about what they like to read.
Yeah, no, Abby and I found out we were very much opposites with some of these things. But first off, let's talk about future plans. We're planning on doing a series about book to movie / TV show adaptations. We'll probably do like 3 or 4 episodes of that, and probably not all at once, but we're going to do like a classics episode with Pride and Prejudice and Little Women and The Great Gatsby, and then we're going to do the Hunger Games series, and then we'll probably do the first Divergent book. We've already decided that we don't want to read the whole series. Abby did.
I have read it.
Yeah, Abby did. I know how it ends, but I didn't read it.
My first book heartbreak, for real. Did not expect that ending.
Yeah, and then we might do the Maze Runner, undecided as of right now. And then I'll probably also talk about all of the bad adaptations that were like solo movies or whatever, because they did so poorly at some point. I have some heavy opinions. And we will also finish All the Light We Cannot See. This will happen eventually. We are planning to do this. We're getting it out there because the more we say it, the more likely we are to do it.
Yeah, we're sorry, guys. Life has been kind of crazy.
Yeah, no.
Life? I don't even have one anymore. It's just school.
You did when you went home, but I mean, this is how we're going to segue. Well, we're not getting there yet, but part of the reason we haven't finished All the Light We Cannot See is because we've both been in a major reading slump, which is partly caused by college right now. But we'll talk about that in a few minutes. And then if you want to talk about...
Right. Yeah. So we are going to be going to my hometown of Houston. And we're going to Teen Book Con during spring break. So obviously this episode is going to take a while to come out. But basically, Teen Book Con, they have a bunch of YA authors come and give keynote presentations or panel discussions where they can answer some of your questions. You can get a lot of your books signed, which is exciting. And there's some authors that we were actually really excited to see.
Oh, yeah. There's one really popular one, or I think she's really popular. She wrote Shatter Me. She's going to be one of the keynote speakers, and forgive me if I butcher her name, but Tahir Mafi. And I'm really excited for that, and I think Abby's sister is also really excited.
She is really excited, and this is like such a full circle moment for me, because when I went to Teen Book Con my first and only time, in high school, I think I was in 9th grade, she was also there, and so I have my Shatter Me book signed by her, and it's kind of crazy to think I'm going to be seeing her again.
Yeah, and then we're also interested in a couple of the other authors that aren't as big. And then we are planning on reading, I got a duplicate Fairy Loot book one month, and that author is going to be there, and so we're excited for that. Gabby Burton, I believe.
Yes. And her book is Sing Me to Sleep,
yes.
I believe.
I believe you're right.
It's like something. I know it's Siren.
I believe it's Sing Me to Sleep, because there are two that I get confused, and one is Lies We Sing to the Sea or something, and the other one is Sing Me to Sleep, and I get those confused because they came out like at the same time, and they have very similar vibes.
There's also a lot of new authors that like I feel like I've seen the books in passing, but I haven't like sat down and looked at them. So we might do a little vlog and add that in at some points.
Oh yeah, no, record a little bit and maybe we can get that edited in.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's exciting. And then, do you want to talk about the little cursed tidbit that we...
Right, so I just want to preface this by saying we actually filmed this episode yesterday. But this episode that episode was cursed, and it actually ended up not recording. Like, we talked for 45 minutes, and it's not recorded.
There were lots of issues. Like, my mic was muted the whole time, and I couldn't figure out why, and I accidentally hit the play button instead of the record button.
And then the GoPro didn't have an SD card.
Yeah.
And then honestly, I blame it on the fact that I brought up In My Swamp. And that's the reason this episode's cursed. So if you don't know, I feel like everyone knows.
Anybody that's, like, on Book Talk knows.
Yeah. It's basically, I think her name is, like, GM Fairy or something like that.
Something like that.
And she wrote this, like, I guess it is kind of like a fan fiction type thing.
I mean, it kind of has to be. Like, it's based on...
And it's a trilogy, which is crazy. I mean, only 2 books are about, like, Shrek and... Well, his name's not Shrek, but, like...
Yeah.
Shrek and Fiona.
Yeah.
And then the other one's about, like, the wizard, which I don't know where the wizard is, and, like... Maybe, I don't know. I feel like there is Merlin in Shrek, but okay, I'm not getting into that.
I don't know. We'll worry about that later.
But I was joking about how I've been in a really bad reading slump. Like, neither of us read anything, basically, the entire winter break. I maybe read, like, 50 pages of a book.
Yeah, that's about where I was at. I, like, planned on finishing this book that I was reading for, like, I've been reading it for the past, like, 6 months. I'm almost done. I'm getting there, but I, like, just am coming out of my reading slump. I started reading this last week.
And I was saying that maybe, like, I think I need to just dedicate myself to, like, something that has, like, very little substance.
Mm-hmm.
That is just, like, a fun read. It's not serious. I don't have to, like, think about it that hard. So maybe I'll read, like, a really fluffy romance or get in my swamp. Which, guys, I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos about it. And, I mean, it's definitely it's not great. But it seems, like, very funny. Almost like she knows, like, the author understands that, like, this is kind of, like, satire in a way. Like, this is not
it's not supposed to be
serious.
serious.
Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe, we'll do an episode on that if we read it, and we'll just have an entire episode dedicated to the monstrosity.
With a lot of bleeps.
Oh, yeah. And bedoinking.
Bedoinking. We'll come up with words for every, like, one. You know, gotta keep it as no, this is not gonna be PG. I mean, that episode's gonna be explicit, but...
Yeah, no, we'll give a warning beforehand.
Yeah, there's a lot of triggers in that book, too, I'd say.
Really? I have no clue.
Well, there is, like, mentions of sexual assault.
Oh, because of yeah. Anyway, moving on before we,
segue into that again.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't know. What's your book slump been caused by? Like, if you had to target something.
I mean, I was reading a bit over the summer before, like, college started back up. But once school starts, I, like, just lose them, like... Over the summer, I have, like, a ton of time, so I can do, like, all of the things that I want. But, like, once college starts, I feel like I'm bogged down. And then it's not, like, reading is a chore, per se. Like, I know you kind of mentioned this, too, when we were filming yesterday. But it's, like, my mind just needs a break to be, like, numb and not do anything that requires me to think a whole lot.
Doom scrolling.
Yeah, that, or, like, just listening to music and laying there, or, like... putting on a random show and just, like, sitting.
Speaking of random shows, my comfort show's gone.
Oh, yeah. Abby has beef with Netflix now.
I do. So now I can't even be numb. They took total drama gone. It's gone, other than the first 2 seasons.
I mean, that happened to me because, okay, the show that I've been binge watching on Amazon Prime, the originals, was on Netflix. It was. And I started watching it when it was on Netflix. And... then they took it off and only had the last season on there. And I was like, what's the point? Just take the whole thing off.
Yeah,
like, why are you leaving one season?
Maybe it was for the people that were, like, on the last season.
Maybe. I don't know. But I was frustrated, and I didn't get to, like, finish watching it. Now I'm on, like, the end of the 2nd season. So we'll see. But that's off topic. But, no, yeah, that's what kind of puts me in a reading slump. And so all of just last semester, I didn't hardly read. I think maybe while school was going, I read maybe 50 pages of something that I wanted to read, not like a textbook or anything. And then over break, I read maybe like 50 pages of that one book that I spent like 6 months on. And I told myself I was going to make it through Iron Flame over break. I made it 2 pages in. I'm still 2 pages in. Anyway.
I think for me, it's like, over the summer, I read 5 books. But when I say it like that, it sounds like, oh, she spaced it out. No. So I worked the entire summer, and it felt like I was working 24/7 almost, because I was a supervisor. And it just, like, felt like at the end of the day, I was so tired, because I was, like, organizing schedules. I had to call people whenever they didn't show up to work. Like, communicate with my boss, like all these angry residents, and it was just like I was so dead at the end of the day. Like all I wanted to do was lay there because I was also the sun for like 12 hours, And so when I went on vacation for 1 week, I read 5 books in that 1 week span, and it's just I feel like that's what happens with me a lot, out and in. And I think over winter break, I had like a really rough fall semester. I'd say I had a really hard time in OChem 2, especially near the end, on top of physics 2 at the same time. And I was also in an art class that was taking up a lot of my time. And it was just...
Yeah, no, I was there for those art nights when Abby was up till like midnight at the kitchen table shaving her little stamp pieces down.
It's just like, I felt like at the end of the day, it was like I had nothing left to give of myself to read. It did start feeling like a chore, and I didn't want my reading to feel like a chore.
Yeah. I also feel like what kind of also caused my reading slump is that I feel like pressured to get through my TBR. So I have a big physical TBR, which I'm trying to be on a book buying ban. It doesn't always work. But I like get really excited about something and I'll buy the book, and then I look at my TBR and I'm like, that mountain, I can't climb it. So I just get stressed out by that, and I feel like, well, I'll let it sit there. I'll do it later kind of thing, you know? But I will dig myself out of this hole.
Yeah, I have a lot smaller of a physical TBR. I think I have around 30 books. 30
yeah,
books,
I mean, that shelf in your room.
Yeah, of books I haven't read. And I feel like I've been pretty good about my book buying ban the past while. I do have exceptions to the rule. Like, if I have a book that I find at like a used bookstore that I've been waiting forever, I will buy it. And gifts, like if someone gifts me, or if I have the first book of a series already and I need to get the rest to finish it, I'll buy it. But I'm not trying to read books, like buy new books as they come out, there is no unless, because I'm trying to be better about it.
Yeah, no, every time we go to Gardner's, plugging it again, we love Gardner's, the used bookstore on Mingo. But we go in there. I'm always the one that like really wants to go, and then Abby's always the one that walks out with 4 books. But I mean, to be fair, like I go there looking for like, I don't want to say specific, but like I have like something in mind when I go there, and Abby doesn't have anything in mind. Nope. And so her like eyes are just like, oh, that looks good, or that's something on like my reading list. Like she doesn't just get like fun books, she gets like stuff for her like med school reading list or whatever.
Yeah, shout out, I got a whole Kaplan book set, and if you are pre-med, you know that's like $200 some. They're $30. So they do have a pretty good med school resource section, so if you are tight on money, I get it, go there.
Yeah,
recommend.
Buying used books is always a good thing.
And they usually are very, like, nice. Like, they're not, like, obviously they have some wear and tear, but, like...
Yeah, I mean, some of them, they have, like, they have some books that are quite, like, a bit older, but then they have a lot of new stuff, too. And last time we were there, I got so excited. Somebody donated Owl Crate special editions.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, no, and I was like, that's so cool. None of them were ones that I were interested in, but I was just like, I've never seen those at a used bookstore. But they were also, like, priced, like, reasonably for special editions. They weren't, like, cheap or anything. But
and they also have a great comic book section. So if you're into that kind of stuff, I feel like it's, like, a whole half of the store almost.
Yeah, I mean that front section.
I will say their romance section does lack a little bit, but I think that's because
it's giving grandma romance section.
Yeah, which, you know, there's a market for that. I feel like it's hard maybe to keep those books in.
I feel like it is, because if you go to the back or like the wall, they have a paranormal romance section, which it seems more like newer stuff. But still not stuff that I'm super familiar with. But I think that I did see, like, 50 Shades of Grey back there, too, so.
Also, yeah, like, why was Aragon in the children's section?
That is a fantastic question, but I do feel like, if anything, it's more YA, but
it is YA, yeah, I'd agree. I just think it's so long, but that's besides the point.
I don't know. But...
Well, I'm hoping to get back into it. I feel like this week, for me, has been just, like, the worst. So hopefully going forward, now that I'm getting off the test grind, I'll be able to read my little fluffy book. I'm sure there's one on my shelf.
Not the one that we were looking at last night. Abby and I are like enjoying watching these videos of people reviewing books that we'll probably never read, but it's like really funny because some of these are just really unhinged. But Abby picked up this thriller that was on her shelf, and she like vaguely knew the plot, but we were like skimming through it to like unravel this mystery because we weren't about to read the whole thing in one sitting.
Because I've read I did read half of it.
Yeah, and it was so crazy. We were just sitting there going, "Oh my gosh!" and that's so sad the whole time, and it was absolutely hilarious.
I do think these YouTube videos will help me get out of my slump because like if I feel like they have so much fun reading and like discussing it that I feel like hopefully what they do is like translates to like what we do.
I know. I hope that carries over because I do feel like what they do is like really fun, and I want to do that here too. Because
all I'm saying, we can make one of those boards for the Hunger Games.
That'd be so funny. I just like prop it up right here. Oh my goodness. And then we have the like little cover up sticky notes with question marks and rip them off when
red flag number 1. It's just Olive Gale's red flags.
But no, yeah, I'm coming out of my reading slump. I think one of the things that's gotten me out of it is like 2 weeks ago, we started going to the gym on the weekend because Abby's trying to get in her cardio, and so I was like, well, I might as well try too. So I was pedaling on the little stationary bike and reading for like, I don't know if it was 40 minutes or 30 minutes.
Something
then I went and walked on the treadmill for 30 minutes and read, and that's what we did yesterday too. And so I'm getting some time in there, and then House of Flame and Shadow released on January 30th, and I went and bought it immediately. I won't go into the fact that I now have 2 copies because I pre-ordered one thinking I wouldn't be able to get an exclusive edition, and now I have 2. Anyway, I started reading that the day, she pre-released the prologue and the first chapter, and I read that right away, and then I started reading the day I got it. But I'm about 150 pages in now. I have some beef with some of the stuff. I still like it, but I mean, I have some beef. But that's for another time.
Wouldn't want to spoil it being so early
new
in the release. Yeah. And keep in mind, like we, I try not to compare like what we do to like what book like people that get paid to be book influencers, because like that's their job. They have time to read. They like get sent books. They, and like for us, it's like I'm in 16 hours or something like that. I think Sarah's also in around 16 hours. Just have no time. Do you want to get into our preferences now?
Yes, we can get into our preferences. I have a list of questions, and we can go over what we do and don't like, and just like what we prefer out of the options. But so my first question on my list is, do you prefer standalones, duologies, trilogies, or more extensive series?
Okay. So, I say, I feel like we discussed this, but trilogies are like your sweet spot. I feel like it's your perfect little, in elementary they draw the little storytelling arc thing where you have like your exposition, your building, climax, following action, resolution, and I feel like a trilogy is like the perfect encompassment of that for fantasy or like dystopian or science fiction. However, I prefer standalones for like romance and fiction, because it's not like there's world building. The world is the world we live in, so it's not like they have to spend most of that entire first book getting us used to like this other world. And I will say, I don't typically reach for series that are like 5+ books, because that's like a commitment, and that's a lot more money too, if you think about it, because like that, nowadays it's like $14 for a paperback half the time. That's if you're lucky.
I'm a little salty about this in some cases, because like I remember when paperbacks used to be like $9.99, or like I was looking at some of my older books, so like my OG ACOTAR covers, I was looking at the back because you know how they used to just have the price like right on the back, and it was like $12.99. And if you try to get like one of the paperbacks now, it's like $18.99. And they definitely like upcharge because they're marketing it in a different like age range now. But that also doesn't make sense to me. Why are young adult books cheaper than adult books? Like, especially like if the page length isn't longer. Like, I get if it's like 300 pages versus like 600 or 800 pages or something, but I don't understand why the price is so different. And I mean, somebody can enlighten me if they know the answer. I haven't ever actually looked, but it just bothers me. Or the fact that the like Throne of Glass series, really long series.
How many books?
It's 8 books total.
So that's probably gonna rank you around at least over like around $100 with tax.
Well, I bought my set off of Amazon. It was the hardcover, the OG hardcovers. I will hang on to those because why are people trying to resell them for $400 now? Because they're out of print.
Okay.
But I don't get it.
Controversial opinion.
Yeah.
I don't really like either of the covers. Ooh, but hey, there's this really cool Instagram account that sells sleeve covers for the Throne of Glass series, and they are beautiful.
Are you talking about Nerdy Ink?
Yes.
I just ordered them.
They're so
because
beautiful.
they're liquidating their inventory.
Yeah.
Because okay, I'm sure they have a lot of reasons, but those dust jackets, are you talking about like the white edges? Or yeah, I just ordered those because they're $15 now, and I didn't want to buy them initially because I was like, I mean, I get that they're like a small business and this is really cool, but I just couldn't justify spending like $40 on paper, as I'm over here like hoarding books. But since they were on sale, and I have the OG like hard covers, then I know they'll fit. Because they have like a warning on their page that like, hey, if you have these, you're agreeing that you like have copies of the books that these will fit. Because right now there are no hardcovers of Throne of Glass in the market. Yeah,
which is kind of weird.
Yeah, it kind of bothers me.
It would make them more money. Because hardcovers.
It just doesn't make sense to me. Like I have a feeling what they might be doing is they might be redesigning for hardcovers. So having like a different cover for hardcovers and then like versus paperbacks, because I know I've seen some things like that.
I'm also a hater of the ACOTAR nude covers.
I don't like the new ones. They feel so bright and the stories feels really dark. I just feel like the vibe doesn't match. And I know a lot of people don't like real people on the covers of books. That's like another preference thing. I don't love pictures of people on my books, but like more like cartoonish is okay in some instances, and I feel like the ACOTAR covers are okay, the old ones. I prefer them to the new ones. I'm salty that my Silver Flames copy doesn't match my other books, but it's okay.
I feel like with people on the covers, I don't mind as long as I don't see their face.
That's fair.
Yeah. Also, I don't like the Canva type beat. I'm sorry, and I'm going to say this. Icebreaker should not look like it could, like a middle schooler could read it. Yeah. It should not.
No,
that's a publishing company's fault, honestly.
I mean, like, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, and they're doing it on purpose.
Yeah. I don't know. I agree that there should be some type of indicator or like age warning, and I'm sure on some books there are, because I know like on Kingdom of the Wicked trilogy, like on the insides of the hardcovers that I have on the dust jackets, it has like 16 plus on one and then 18 plus on like the last one or whatever, or maybe it was the other way around, I don't know. But
or even like I don't know, like booksellers, obviously Amazon doesn't have like a physical in-person thing, but you know, they can put it in like just trigger warnings, like on like, especially, I'm not saying for every single book, but like for like very popular ones that you know have like some very dark themes, and you know that a lot of like 10-year-olds are reading for some reason because it's popular on Book Talk, and it's a cute
not Haunting
cover,
Adeline,
because it's a cute cover, and maybe it would just help parents know what's in the books, not necessarily the kids, because I feel like the kids do know.
Yeah, I mean, if they're picking it up, I
Yeah.
feel like they obviously know what's in it, and I feel like a lot of parents just don't think that there could be stuff like that in a book that their kid's wanting to read.
Especially because they're like, oh, my kid's reading.
Especially if it's discrete covers, like you were saying, like Icebreakers,
Mhm.
or like, what, The Love Hypothesis,
Or even Twisted Love. It's, like,
yeah,
very
like
chill.
like the discrete covers, like, don't get me wrong, I appreciate a discrete cover if I'm reading something that, like, might get me judgment from other people. Like, I don't want a naked man on my cover, but...
Speak for you, I'm just kidding. My grandma would disagree, I'm just kidding.
Okay, that's funny, though. But at the same time, I feel like it's very misleading sometimes. And I would rather know what's in a book that I'm reading. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's just, like, because I swear, there's some books, like, I'm gonna say, like, Lightlark, for example. Like, I have no idea what's in that book.
I feel
like it's everything.
Idea.
It's everything.
I have a vague idea, and I've seen so many mixed reviews about it.
Because it's like, I just want to know what I'm getting myself into, personally. I'm not saying, like, you have to spoil, like, especially if there's, like, big plot, but, like, hey, like, by the way, there's this in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind.
Be aware. Like, I mean, like, I know I've seen books advertised on, like, Bookstagram or Book Talk with, like, they have trigger warnings in the front of the book. Like, when you open it, it's like, be aware that this is in here, like, before you start reading.
Is that enough?
I mean, I feel like it should be. Like, if the warning is there, then the warning is there. I mean, it's obviously not as, like,
I just don't know if parents would ever see that. Because I don't know about you, my parents never, like, needed to know what the book was about to buy me the book.
My parents didn't do that either. But to be fair, like, when I picked up books that my parents bought me, I also just read the back of the cover, and if it didn't explicitly say, like, what was in it, I was like, oh, okay, this is fine. Like, I picked up ACOTAR when I was in 8th grade, and I didn't know what was in the entire series. I'm not gonna lie, I really liked the series, but I think that if my parents, like, knew what was in some of it, they probably wouldn't have bought it for me.
Yeah.
But, I mean...
And I'm not blaming the authors for that, because, like, they write their book for the audience that they have in mind, you know?
Mm-hmm.
They're not, I don't think they're usually in charge of the covers, per se. Unless it's self-published, then usually they are. But that's a different can of worms. You never said yours.
Oh, yeah. I love... Okay. I think you're right. Trilogies are the sweet spot. Especially since I, like, prefer reading fantasy and dystopian type, like, genres, that it makes sense, because, like, you need more, like, world building for stuff like that, so you need more books. I will say, I'm not a big fan of standalones, but I really haven't read many standalones that were non-fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
I had, like, one historical fiction romance type book that was a standalone, and I thought it was really well done. And I, like, for, like, situations like that, I think standalones are great. But, like, To Kill a Kingdom, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it was fairly popular on Book Talk. And it was a standalone, and I just thought, like, there wasn't enough time to, like, it felt rushed, kind of. But I know, like, you were like, anything more than, like, 6 books or whatever, I don't know what number you gave, but, like, Throne of Glass is really long, and to be fair, I feel like the first 2 books feel kind of out of place for the series. I mean, they make sense, but I really like the series, and I can get with a long series as long as I feel like it's well done, for the most part.
I feel like with your longer series, you can't just follow one character, though.
Yeah, well, and that gets us down to, like, our next question, actually. Single POV or multiple POVs?
Listen, my brain, I have a hard time keeping track when there's, like, 12 POVs, because, like, I don't really care. No offense, like, I don't really care to hear all these people's thoughts. Like, half of these characters are mainly irrelevant for me. Especially when you get to that POV that you just don't freaking want to read because they're so annoying. And it's like, I know there's probably stuff in here that's important, but, like, I can't get into it. And that kind of turns me off from a book. And I have had a few DNFs from those kind of multiple POV books because I can't get past this one freaking character.
Yeah, no, I prefer multiple POVs. Like, if I had to pick, like, whether I only read multiple POVs or single POVs for the rest of my life, I would pick multiple POVs, just because I feel like it gives more depth to the story most of the time. But also, I just like getting attached to like all of the characters. So like, um, I don't know. I wouldn't say most of the fantasy books I read have multiple POVs, but like, um, I do have one complaint about it, which has to do with House of Flame and Shadow. But we talked about this earlier, and I'll probably bring it up in a few minutes. But Throne of Glass has quite a few POVs. Initially, I'm pretty sure it's just the main character in Throne of Glass, and then as the series progresses, you start picking up more POVs, and by like the final book, I don't know if there's like 8 or 10 different POVs. And I mean, Abby's absolutely right. Like, there's always that one person that you're like, oh my gosh, them again. But I'm not gonna lie, when I was reading that series, that was me with Manon. And I actually, like, the more I got her POV, the more I liked her. It just took a while. But I feel like that's because I felt like she wasn't very likable to begin with. Anyway, by the end of it, I was in love with her, but it's okay.
Yeah, I just find that, like, you have to do it well. And I feel like most of the time it is not done well.
Yeah, my complaint about House of Flame and Shadow is that it's switching POVs a lot. And I mean, like, a lot. Like, a character's getting, like, maybe 2.5 pages before the POV switches. Or, like, I got one whole chapter of non-switching, which I really enjoyed. But there was one chapter that was, like, 10 pages long, maybe, and it switched POVs 3 times. And I was like, I can't keep up with this.
I feel like you lose the detail then. Like, you almost lose the plot. Like, I don't mind, like, 2 POVs. Like, that's fine. But it's just, like, I don't know. I just prefer, like, I don't want to say simple books, but, like,
yeah,
I like to get attached to a character. I don't really care for the rest of them. They're supporting characters for the supporting arc. Like, for her arc. Or his arc.
Yeah.
And that's just like a personal thing.
I mean, I guess I've read like quite a few books with multiple POVs. Like the Crown of Feathers trilogy started with like one POV, but then as the series came to its conclusion, I think there were like 7 or 8 people that it followed. And I really enjoy it because it gives you perspective from every angle. And I don't know, it's just, I like, you said it's less simple, but it's like you like getting attached to one person, but I like being attached to everybody in the story. And I think I've just gotten used to that. Like, I don't know.
I feel like I don't even know how many multiple POV books I've read, like, all the way through. I can't think of any on the top of my head right now.
I mean,
like, it's different when, like, a few chapters are from somebody else's point of view that brings in a different perspective. Like, that's fine. I'm saying, like, every other chapter is switching.
Or, like, I know in some books, like, there's bonus content. So, like, the holiday edition of Fourth Wing, the original book is all Violet's POV, and then the holiday edition had, like, 2 bonus chapters from Zayden's POV. Which I think that's cool too. Like, I might not need the whole series in 2 perspectives, but to just see what somebody else is thinking is also kind of cool.
That's what they did Divergent with 4. 4, I think, had like a few, like 4 scenes from different books from his point of view. I did enjoy it. It made me cry.
Is that what that book 4 is about? That's just that
That's
one?
just his point of view. So I don't mind that. Like, I like that.
Or like Midnight Sun from Twilight.
Oh, I didn't even. Oh, I forgot that's from Edward's point of view. I feel like most people do not read that book.
No, I haven't got. I didn't even pick up a copy when they had them in the bargain section at Books A Million, because I couldn't finish the series to begin with, so I don't need to read Edward's POV, but it's okay.
And you know, I feel like sometimes my problem is with multiple POVs is it brings me out of the, like, main character, like, because sometimes it goes against, like, not saying that you can't have faults in the main character, but, like, it's just, like, kind of, I don't like when the story makes me hate the main character, and I have DNF'd a few books that I have hated the main character, because, like, the way she, Instant Karma, yeah, no, I couldn't even, I was like, I don't know how this person could be redeemed, being so for real, I don't know.
I get what you're saying. That's kind of like what I was saying with House of Flame and Shadow. A lot of people are complaining that it makes the spoiler. I mean, like, most people already know this because they even advertise this on, like, Sarah's Instagram page. But it makes the ACOTAR characters seem really annoying because they don't trust Bryce. But, like, it's reasonable, because would you trust somebody that just showed up on your doorstep and, like, is spouting all this nonsense about another world? But, I mean, fair. But, like, also it is kind of aggravating, because I don't want to see my favorite characters like that. They're my besties.
It's not saying that I'm not willing to read multiple POV books.
It just has to be done better, or, like, in a specific way.
Because I feel like some authors struggle at seeing lenses throughout, like, what outside of the main character.
Next question. What are some of your favorite tropes? And I think we should give top 3. Or, like, just, like, your favorite 3. Not necessarily in a ranked order, but...
Listen, I know everyone's a really big enemies to lovers. I am not, like, that's not my favorite trope, personally. Like, it's fine. It's good. I think it's overused anymore. But
I think it's overused because it got really popular. But that is one of my favorites. But it has to be done well. It can't just be like they don't like each other.
Now they all of a sudden do.
Yeah, now all of a sudden they just can't, like, leave each other's side. No, it has to be, like, really slow burn.
Like, I feel like a KOTAR did that pretty well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I like childhood best friends to misunderstanding to, like, not misunderstanding, but, like, they, like, fall apart. No, like, okay, they stop seeing each other. Like, maybe they moved, someone moved, and they come back together. And I think that's so cute.
I was like, Abby just tried to reword miscommunication trope.
No, that's my least favorite trope, miscommunication. But it's like, obviously miscommunication happens, but it has to be, like, well done and, like, not, like, stupid.
Yeah. I don't know. I've read so many webtoons.
Like, sometimes it's, like, plot armor. Or, like, plot convenience to get the conflict going. I'm like, just say you can't write conflict well.
Yeah.
I think, listen, this is a classic.
Okay.
Forced proximity.
I love forced proximity. Okay, that's definitely my second one.
And I love banter.
I do too.
I love a good I don't know if that's a trope, but, like, whenever the, like, main, if it's, like, a romance book, whenever the main, couple banters a lot, I love that. I don't know if that's a trope, but I'm gonna say that's my number 3. Banter.
I don't know if that's a trope either, but I do like a good banter too. But I think enemies to lovers, forced proximity, and then I'm over here the one that came up with these questions, and I don't even have answers for them.
Okay, I have a trope that I hate.
Okay.
So why are there always, like, 17?
Oh, like,
I understand
big age
it's
gaps.
a coming of age. I understand it's a coming of age. Like, trust me, I get it. But why does the character to be 17 and then, like, the male interest is, like, in his, like, late 20s?
Yeah, no, that's...
I feel like you could still make her, like, 22
and be all right,
and she can still be coming of age, because let's be real, when you graduate college, it's like, oh shit, now in the real world.
Yeah, or, like, our brains aren't fully developed till we're, like, 25, so, like...
And if you're neurodivergent, it takes even longer. So...
I don't know. I guess I'll go with banter, too, for now, for lack of a better...
Like, I don't know what the trope is called. Like, if I had to give it.
Okay. I will say, I do like... I haven't read a lot of these, but a good grumpy sunshine is also really cute.
I like it when it's flipped, where it's grumpy,
the girl's grumpy.
Grumpy girl, sunshine boy. Has my heart.
Golden retriever boy. Yes, please.
But I don't know. Sometimes I don't like the golden retriever boy because it feels like... I don't want to say, like, weaponized incompetence, but, like, something like it's just not...
I see what you're saying.
It has to be, like, done well. For me to like a golden retriever boy.
Our next question was least favorite tropes, which...
I can go on a whole list. I have like 12.
Yeah, no, Abby hates love triangles. Abby hates miscommunication.
I hate unwanted pregnancy.
Oh, everybody hates
or
that.
Or unplanned or whatever. I hate when they use trauma for plot convenience. I don't know how to word it, but, like, where they, like, make these super traumatic situations and they just, like, never address it later.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh, she's fine now. I'm like, is she? Girl just got sexually assaulted.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like Red Queen did a really good job with, like, trauma, but, like, she addressed it, too. Like, what happened to Mare in the 3rd book, with Maven or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's just, I hate it. I do hate love triangles. And I hate brother love triangles.
You hate love angles.
Yeah, I hate arrows.
Yeah,
there's no
not
true
even,
love
not
triangles.
I've been told that if you want a real love triangle, Iron Widow.
Oh, yeah.
I plan on reading that eventually.
You know what? I prefer reverse harem to love triangles.
I'll
say that.
I don't hate those. They're not my first option. I don't mind love triangles as long as, like, it resolves fairly quickly.
It's like, listen, with the Hunger Games, it was like, we all knew Gail wasn't the one. It's never the childhood best friend. That's the thing. I also hate whenever it's like, it's always the same guy chosen. It's so played out. Like, I don't know. Like, it's usually the bad boy.
Yeah.
For consequence of the childhood friend who's been there for her for, like, her entire life. I'm not saying that she has to have romantic feelings for him, but, like,
it's never
it never ends well.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just choose. Girl, why are you dragging two people along? Or, like, you don't need to be doing all that.
Yeah. But I guess for me, miscommunication usually. There are some miscommunication tropes that I like, or like books that have used a miscommunication trope that I didn't think were like too bad. Like, it didn't make me angry. I also hate unwanted or surprise pregnancy. Because why in my YA book, I don't know if you're familiar with the Undertow trilogy.
Yeah.
But Michael Buckley or whatever his name is. I liked the first book. The second book was okay, but why did this, like, I don't know if she was 17 or 18 or what, but, like, why did you have to make her pregnant in, like, the final book? Like, why was that part of the plot line? Like, it was so
again,
unnecessary.
with the, why do all these characters have to be that age? For it to be a book.
Yeah.
I understand why in YA, because it makes more sense, because it's, like, teenagers reading about teenagers. But, like, I feel like for adult, I'd rather read about, like, 20-year-olds.
I mean, most adult books that I have read, because I don't read a ton of adult books, but, like, I guess one of the adult books I read, I think she was, like, 18 or 19, which, like, freshly, like, adult is not exactly
what I have in mind.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, like, you can't do it. But
like, the Crescent City series, the main character, Bryce, is, like, 26 in the first one, which I think is chill. Like,
I like that.
Yeah, I like that. And...
because I'm so sick. Naivety. That's also one of my... I don't think I'm saying that right at all.
I know what you're saying, though.
But, like, that's also least favorite. Like, when the character's dumb. Like, just dumb. Like, no common sense. And that's why I kind of hate 17-year-olds. I'm sick of it. Give me a 28-year-old that's, like, been divorced or something and, like,
yeah,
is hardened by life.
I like YA, and I don't mind young. It feels a little weird now. Like, I know I'm not even 20 yet, but, like, it feels weird reading about younger characters already. And, like, I know some people don't seem to have an issue with that, but it feels weird that I have now surpassed the age of my, like favorite characters.
And you're telling me a 17-year-old's gonna save the world? No, they're not. No, we're not. I'm not even 17. I don't know why I'm saying we, but no, we're not.
No. Or, like, okay, this is a trope that I hate with a passion. When the main character gives up, okay, this is specifically, like, fantasy or, like, dystopian or whatever, gives up their power to save the world. Like, why?
And it's always female characters, almost.
Yeah.
Not saying there's a... Well, I feel like most books are written from a female perspective.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there are very few YA books that are from a dude's perspective that I'm familiar with. I can think of, like, a handful.
Probably
like,
Maze Runner.
The Maze Runner. There's a trilogy called Half Bad, or, like, the first book is Half Bad. I only made it to the first two.
Maybe it's because we're females.
Yeah, I mean, that could be. Or, like, the Michael Vey series. I'm only familiar with that because Noah read that. But, or, like, I mean, Harry Potter's not even YA. That's, like, middle grade. I
think Harry Potter changes. Obviously, like...
I mean, he grows up, but I feel like the story
the last two books are dark.
Yeah.
Dark as hell.
I guess the reader's supposed to age with the...
I think, yeah, that was the goal.
Yeah.
But I agree. I don't really know what to classify Harry Potter as.
No, I don't know. But just, I feel like most of the books I read are from a female perspective, but that's one of the things that I like about the multiple POVs, is that sometimes you, like, get guy perspectives, too.
Or, this is not a trope. This is just a thing I hate in books. When male authors... Oops, my bad. Sorry, I'll repeat that. When male authors write about female experiences when they've clearly, I'm like, have you ever spoke to a female before? Have you? Why are her breasts bouncing
boobily or
down
whatever?
the stairs?
Yeah,
Why?
no. Her breasts bounce boobily as she titted downward. That was the weirdest line I'd ever read. I don't even know what book it's from, but I was looking at weird quotes about women written by men.
Not saying that women don't write about the male experience, and it's also incorrect. But I feel like you should do a little more research. Like, how about you ask people?
Yeah, no, I read that and I was like, there's no way somebody actually wrote this. And
her menstrual period lasted 1 day.
No, okay, that's one of my other peeves. I don't think this is actually a trope, but when books ignore the fact that women menstruate, like, I don't understand. Like, I get it, like, it's okay if it's mentioned, like, briefly once. I don't need to hear about it all the time, but, like, you can't just pretend like it doesn't happen. And that's, like, one of the things that I like about Throne of Glass and ACOTAR. They don't just pretend like it doesn't exist, especially in, like, a fantasy world. They still have their periods, and it's, like, realistic.
Yeah, and, like, I understand if obviously this person's been, like, starved and, like, has been captured for however many long. Like, that makes sense because you would lose your period. But, like, I don't know. It's just, like, also, like, why there's the lack of showers. And all of a sudden they're boning. I'm like, okay, I know y'all stink.
Or, I don't know, I think there was a scene, and this is one of the reasons that I don't like this series a whole lot and why I haven't finished it. The first book was good. Everything after that kind of went downhill in my opinion, but from Blood and Ash, there was a scene, like, they just, like, were fighting in a battle. There's people, I think, still fighting outside, and they're in a carriage, and they're, like, badoinking, and I'm like, there's people dying outside, and you're just like...
Kim, there's people dying.
Anyway.
I'm trying to think if there are any more tropes that I just absolutely...
Spies.
Well, it's because, like, the things, like, I feel like tropes are mainly, like, fantasy romance. Like, I'm not saying there aren't tropes in fiction, but, like, I feel like I don't only read those genres, so...
I mean, like... Not even necessarily just tropes, but, like, things that, like... Or, I mean, I guess a trope is something that commonly happens that, like, people use as a plot point. But, I don't know.
I feel like tropes matter more now than they did.
Well, it's because how a lot of people market their books now. And I guess this is another preference we can talk about. But marketing for books, I feel like, should not be reduced to, oh, there's one bed. Or, oh, forced proximity. Like, I like it, but I don't need you to tell me, like, that's what's in your book to get me to read it. Your book should be good enough that I read the synopsis or, like, a chapter of it and be like, yes, I like these characters. I want to keep reading, regardless of where the story goes. If it's written well and the plot is, like, can stand on its own, it shouldn't matter that there's forced proximity or enemies to lovers.
And or they show, like, one quote from the book. I'm like, okay.
And the rest of the book isn't that
doesn't match. It's, like, kind of like whenever people release songs, snippets of songs on Instagram, and the whole song is never as good as just that one
verse or whatever. Next question. Hardcovers or paperbacks?
We differ on this.
Yes.
I break my spines. I don't care. I'm a paperback. I want my books to look like they've been read. Personally. I like old books. I have, like, a book from the 1800s. I have cameras from the 1800s. I like old things. And I think I enjoy the fact that, like, maybe years from now someone's going to look at this book of mine and be like, wow, she really loved this book.
Yeah.
Like, she read this so many times, you can tell.
I will say, like, I mean, I used to love paperbacks, and I still like to read paperbacks, but I do feel like they're more fragile. I don't mind some wear and tear that looks like it's been used and loved, but it makes me so nervous because I've had, like, situations when I was in junior high or high school where the cover would get bent over, and it just broke my heart because now there's just a crease in the cover. And I was like... But that's one of the reasons that I prefer paperbacks. I do, like, worry about the dust jacket now because I'm like, I don't want to mess up the dust jacket now. But I like a pretty shelf, and I feel like not necessarily new looks pretty, but good condition looks pretty. So, like, if it shows somewhere, I'm okay with that because I did read it, and you can see that I read it. But I don't just, like, go over here and, like, crack the book over and, like, bend the cover in.
Well, I don't, like...
Yeah, no, I know,
I
but
just, like, read it like normal.
I know, like, some people don't care, and I've seen videos of people on, like, Bookstagram going like that, and I'm just like, It hurts. I mean, but I also don't, like, mind it so much. Like, if it's a replaceable item, then, like, go for it. But, like, if you're, like, ripping the cover off of something that's out of print, I'm gonna cry.
Well, it's kind of like the thing of, like, what's the point of collections? Like, say, okay, I'm gonna talk about Stanley Cups. Why do you need 12 Stanley Cups if you're not gonna use them? They're just, like, pretty on a shelf. That, like, defeats the entire purpose of having it, in my opinion. But that's, like, very specific to Stanley Cups.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of things like that, though, but Stanley Cups is kind of one of those.
Or, like,
they're supposed to serve a purpose.
Or sneakers. Like, sneakers will fall apart if you don't wear them. Like the sole will, like, disintegrate.
They're supposed to, like, have a purpose, and, like, don't get me wrong, books have a purpose, you read them. But, like, for me, I try not to buy multiple editions of the same book. It's one thing if they're, like, really pretty, like, special editions. So, like, Fairy Loot does, like, editions of, like, they did the Vampire Academy series, and I bought the first 3 of those. Or, like, the Crescent City books, the first 2, I have those. But most of the time, if I buy, like, a book, I'm only buying it for that one copy of it. Not, like, I'm not just gonna go out and buy, like, 6 different versions of it.
I don't really understand people that do that. Like, I'll see a person, they have, like, 12 different copies of, like, one book, and I'm like, I understand that they're collectibles almost, like, but it also gives the same vibe. I'm a person that takes my Funko Pops out of the Funko box. I'm not trying to resell my stuff is the thing.
Yeah, no, that's kind of, like, where I'm at, because I take my Funko Pops out of the box, too, except for one. I didn't take a Chase out of the box, because, like, that's a little different, but, my exclusive editions, my special editions from Fairy Loot, I was initially embossing them with, like, from the library of Sarah Emmons, and then I lost my embosser.
R.I.P.
Yeah, no, I will buy another one eventually, but I don't have one right now. So most of my books that I've read in the past year have not been embossed. But, like, I was embossing special editions, and, like, I know some people would be like, that destroys the resale value. I don't care. I'm not gonna resell them. I just like the idea that I have something that's worth money.
Honestly, like, I hope someday that my stuff's sold out in an estate sale, and somebody can get this stuff that actually appreciates it for, like, what it is, rather than, like, because I'm sorry, I feel like reselling's ruining a lot of things.
Oh, it absolutely is because people that actually want it can't get it. And then, like, these people are reselling it for, like, 2, 3, 4, or 5 times the price. And they're just trying to make, like, a quick buck. And it's not fair to, like, you're contributing nothing to society if you resell. I get it if you, like, have something and you don't want it anymore and you resell it for, like, okay, maybe, like, twice the price if it's aged and people can't get it anymore. That's one thing. But, like, 3 or 4 times the price is insane. I don't know. Or, like, if your entire goal with something is to resell, then...
Yeah. Because, like, I'd rather have someone buy my stuff that is actually going to enjoy it than someone that's just going to stick it on the shelf and never use it.
I saw this thing on, I don't know if it was Reddit. I was specifically looking for something ACOTAR related. And this girl posted a picture of this ACOTAR cover, and it was like an OG cover, and she was like, I found this, I was wondering if this was worth anything, and I click on the picture, and it had advanced reader copy in the corner.
Yeah, that's worth something.
I was like, oh my gosh, that's insane.
Keep
like,
it.
Lucky. No, yeah, and people were, like, making offers, and she said, no, I'm keeping it. Like, she wanted to keep it, and I was like, good on you for not trying to resell just because you have something worth money.
We're creating scarcity that doesn't exist.
Yeah, but no, that's one of my biggest pet peeves. And, like, I don't, at the same time, I do and don't like that Fairy Loot reprinted a set. They reprinted the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, and that first book in that trilogy was in one of their monthly boxes, and they, like, said that they would never reprint a monthly box book, and then they did, and it made a lot of people mad. And Owl Crate is very firm on that. They will not ever reprint something that was in a box. If you didn't get it, too bad, so sad. Which I get and I don't get.
Because so many people don't have access to it because they're, like, I feel like they need to expand. Because I feel like there is an interest in it. It's just they don't have the ability to scale up. Because how long were you on the wait list?
I wasn't, okay, on my Fairy Loot wait list, I was on the YA wait list for, I think, 3 months. which is not nearly as bad as some people. Like, some people have been on the wait list for like 8 months to a year and are still waiting. But to be fair, I've had my subscription for over a year now, the YA one. And then I guess it's almost been a year and a half. But my adult one, I was on the wait list for, maybe 2 or 3 months. It wasn't that long. And I think that it's worse for, like, because you have to, like, be on the wait list for, like, each individual subscription. So, like, I was on the YA, like, full box list. Some people, I think a lot of people are on the book only one because they don't want all the extra stuff, which I'm also, like, kind of, like, debating on going down to just the book only, like, getting on that wait list, because I'm starting to, like, be like, I have all this stuff and half of it I don't use. Like, a lot of it I do use and I really like, but, like, some of it just sits there.
I don't know, or like, listen, I was pissed that I couldn't get those Hunger Game books because why are the UK books so much nicer than the US books?
I was salty about that too, because I was looking and then I was digging into it because you were asking me about it, and
it's because it's Scholastic through the UK. Like, you couldn't get it and they were not shipping it to the US.
Yeah, they weren't shipping. Well, I don't know about that 100%, but I do know that it was a limited run, and so they will not be reprinting them. As far as I know, they won't be reprinting them. So the only way you can get one is like a resale.
Which
set.
I hate that they do that. Why can't they just print more? I don't understand. Like, just print more.
Yeah.
Please.
It's not... I mean, like, if I could have had that set, that would have probably been the only Hunger Games set that I...
Because I don't have the Hunger Games books. I read those borrowed.
I bought them... I got them for Christmas one year because they were on sale. I got, like, a cheap box set at Sam's Club or something, and I asked my grandma for it for Christmas, and she got it for me. But, no, yeah, it made me so sad because they're so pretty. And... Next question. Preferred page length of books.
400. I feel like 400, you get a good chunk, world building. You get to actually, like, develop a connection with the characters, but it doesn't drag on for so long that reading it starts feeling like a chore. Because I feel like if you are writing an 800-page book, there are going to be parts in there that are boring. Probably. Especially if it's one point of view. Yeah. It's going to be boring.
I couldn't imagine an 800-page book from one person's POV. But so it depends, like you said, on, like, what the content of the book is. I prefer, like, 350 to 400 pages for a book. I was honestly a little intimidated when, like, the last book of the Throne of Glass series, Kingdom of Ash, is, like, almost 1,000 pages. I think it depends on the copy that you're reading, like, page... like, count varies, but I was intimidated, but it had so many POVs and it kept me entertained throughout the whole book, and I was emotionally involved, so it worked. But, like, the first Crescent City book was like 800 pages. The first 200 pages was world building, and I felt like the rest of it could have been half as long as it actually was. And, like, I mean, I could be wrong. I'm sure some people could justify why it was as long as it was, but I don't remember half of what happened in that book because it's just like...
I think, like, for standalones, 200 to 300.
Yeah, I think 300 is solid for standalones.
Yeah. Because, for, like, fiction and romance, since you're not world building, I feel like you're fine with 200 most of the time. But, I feel like sometimes authors get overly descriptive. I'm like, I don't need to know the exact color of every single thing in this scene.
Chartreuse.
Not the chartreuse tie. That's why would you choose that color? Anyway, yeah, I just feel like sometimes it, like, when you have so many pages, you lose sight of, like, what's actually important in the book for being overly descriptive. I'm not saying all authors do this, but, like, I feel like maybe if you haven't written that many books, that might be a problem.
Yeah. I feel like most authors, like, tend to have an issue meeting a page count. But then I know, like, some authors, or, like, I've had people, like, write essays in classes that they're like, I went way over and I had to cut back, like, 400 words. And I'm sitting here like, I had trouble meeting my word count.
That was for me for my college essay. I was about 500 words over. Because I didn't know what the word count was when I wrote it.
I will say I did have one issue. I've had one issue where I went way over word count and I had to cut stuff down, but it was because I was really interested in the topic. If I'm not as interested, it's harder. But no, yeah, I do like longer books if they're done well, and typically, generally, like they'll have to have multiple POVs. But I do think that like 300 to 400 pages is a good count, like page count for most books.
And like y'all, I feel like authors also have to keep in mind their audience, because if your audience is in their 20s, I don't have time to sit down and read 800 pages in a fast enough thing where I can remember the beginning of the book. Like if it's 800 pages, I might finish that in like 4 months because of how busy I am now. And then I might forget like half of it and I'll have to go back and be like refresh myself on what I was reading.
Well, that's like with the Crescent City series. A lot of people before release day were posting like, so you don't have to go back and reread. Here's all of the really important stuff that you need to know before you start reading this. Because, like, I didn't remember everything that happened in those books. And I wasn't about to go and reread 1,600 pages to prep for this new book. So, here we are. I'm doing fine.
Because if your audience is, like, high school, they have usually, not everyone, obviously, people have different extracurriculars, but I feel like a lot of people have more time.
Yeah, I definitely had more time in high school to read. And, like, I mean, it still depends on, like, what you do and what your lifestyle is. Because, like, I mean, my boyfriend's sister for a while was, like, just staying at home. She's, like, doing stuff now. But, I mean, when she was staying at home, she was reading. Like, she read, like, 120 books in a year. And she said that was the most she'd ever read in a year.
That's probably the most I'll ever read in my lifetime.
I don't believe that.
I'm not
120?
Yeah. Think about it. I've read 5 books last year. I read probably like 5 or 7 books.
I've read over 120 in my 18 years so far. Okay, let me rephrase.
I did not start reading until I was older.
Okay.
And I also I did not buy a lot of books. So I didn't really have a choice on the amount I could read. I had to find somebody that had the book. Or I had to go to the library. And it's not like I could drive.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, yeah, no, I started reading, like, extensively in, like, 5th grade with the Warriors series, and then it just went from there. But, so that, I guess that helps with my, like, book count so far.
And I was also in competitive sports all the way till I was, like, 16.
Yeah, I stopped being in competitive sports when I was 12, so, anyway.
I can't read in cars. I struggle. I used to. All throughout, like, middle school, high school, I had no issue. All of a sudden, like, within the past 3 years, yeah, I get car sick now. I don't know what that means, but...
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem reading in cars. I don't have a problem walking on the treadmill and reading at the same time.
I don't think I'd have a problem with that. I just get really sweaty because I'm, like...
Yeah, no, my hands were sweating.
I'm strutting. I'm, like, making a little dance video in my head.
You're, like, actually, like fast walking and, like... I'm over here, like, at my 2.2 miles per hour with my book in both hands looking at this, and, like, I'm walking faster than the treadmill is.
The light just turned on.
No. I'm walking faster than the treadmill is sometimes, and I have to slow down and, like, because I'm not paying attention. Let's see what our final question is. I think there's one more. Short chapters or long chapters?
If it's multiple point of views, I do not want short chapters.
No,
I can't get into it then, because I can't get into that character's headspace. I think for multiple point of views, like, you have to have, like, slightly, I'm not saying, like, 30-page chapters, but you have to have, like, slightly longer chapters, because how am I supposed to, like, switch my mental process, like, this is a different person now, in 2 pages?
I feel like I need at least 8 to 10 pages. If you have multiple POVs, I need at least 8 to 10 pages of one POV continuously. But I do prefer shorter chapters, especially when there's only one person's POV throughout the whole book, because I feel like I don't like stopping in the middle of chapters, and sometimes I just don't have the time to, like, read 30 or 40 pages in a chapter before I have to put the book down. So it just depends on what the storyline is and a lot of other factors. But
I like longer chapters because I'm a very fast reader. So I like some of those 400 books, I read that one day. And yeah, I don't know. So I don't really mind stopping in the middle of chapters, but that's just like a personal thing.
I mean, like, I can. It's just I prefer not to because it makes me feel like I'm in a unfinished spot. I don't know. It's weird. But like, I don't know. I feel like short chapters make me feel like the book's going by faster, sort of. It's like when I break my physics videos down into like, yes, if there's 3 videos that are like all 15 minutes, that's less than watching 3 20-minute videos or whatever, or 2 20-minute videos.
Put it on 2 times speed. That's my hack.
Oh, I put it on 1.5 speed because I just can't, like, his voice, like faster than that kind of bothers me. But no.
Whenever a chapter's really short, I feel like it's just not building enough. Obviously, like, I'm not saying every single chapter has to be long, but I feel like if you're in an important part of the book, I don't want to be constantly taken out by chapters, ending and going. Like, I'm like, okay, this is the climax. Like, I need like a 30-page chapter because I need to get into it.
I will say, like, if I'm reading a fantasy and there's like a battle scene, take all the time and as many pages as you need because I will be into that and I can sit there and I will make time for it. But like, if it's just like a basic section of the book, you can break it down.
Especially if it's just like they're traveling to their location.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need 30 pages about each place they stop.
Yeah, I was gonna say, for me, like, short chapters are like 10 to 20 pages. I feel like less than 10 is a little too little. I get it. Sometimes it makes sense.
Sometimes it's like those 1-page chapters. Like, those make sense because it's usually like an inner monologue or something. I was gonna say,
or like usually like a consciousness type thing, which those make sense. But like, I don't know, anything more than 30 pages sometimes is a lot to me. Yeah. Okay. I mean, those were all the questions I had. If you have any thoughts or...
Yeah, I mean, we've already gone going for over an hour now, so I feel like this is a good place to stop. Okay, we're going to put a bookmark in it now. So have a good rest of your day, a good rest of your week, and a good rest of your month.
And happy reading.
Abi and Sarah, signing out.